everyone. This week I have Sarah, or as she's known on YouTube, Carnivore Yogi, with me. And I just wanted her to come on my channel and share a little bit about her story because I found it quite fascinating. So she will tell you a little bit about why she started this journey at all, what has worked for her and what hasn't worked, how she's been struggling with food addiction, and also how she has changed her macros over time and what she's doing right now. And if you want to learn more about low carb diets and doing it the right way, or get different perspectives on ways that you can try doing it, I will urge you to subscribe to the channel. Yay, I got it right. Give it a thumbs up, share it with everyone you know who you think would benefit from it, and just comment. Leave me comments. Let me know what sort of material you want to see. Let me know who you want me to interview, and I will do my best to get them on my channel. Now, without further ado, here is my interview with Sarah. Nice to see you again, Sarah.
Good to see you too.
So we had some technical difficulties and we just restarted the recording. So I was just saying that it's probably best if Sarah just introduces herself and let us all know about why she started the carnivore diet, how she got into it, and what made her continue, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I started Carnivore January 2019. It was right after the holidays. I think a lot of people can probably relate to the holidays and all the sugar and, eating too much and too much overindulging. And I definitely had experienced that, that Christmas. And before the Christmas, I had been to the doctor, gotten a diagnosis of PCOS, had an ultrasound done where there were cysts on my ovaries, and just was generally feeling tired all the time. Had to, kind of quit working out the way that I wanted to. I'm a yoga teacher. I had to quit doing yoga because my joints were always in so much pain. The kind of yoga that I liked to do, I just couldn't do it. It hurt. And so a friend of mine who's a functional medicine doctor had been carnivore for 5 months herself. And so she recommended it. She said, why don't you just try it? I think it would help you with a lot of the stuff that you're going through. And I'm a lifelong binger, eating disorders. I've lost 100 pounds 3 times. And so I was like, okay, fine, I'll do anything at this point, because I had been paying a nutritionist a whole bunch of money. And it wasn't working out. She was telling me to do stuff like just eat 1 cookie a day to manage my binging and to manage the sugar cravings, just to have 1 cookie. Like that was some kind of a plan to deal with my sugar addiction, which it went horribly wrong. So yeah, bad advice. 1 cookie a day is not going to help you with sugar addiction. You just got to get that stuff out of your life. But within probably like a few weeks of doing carnivore, after I got over the initial like sugar withdrawals, which were not fun, but once I got past that, I started feeling a lot better. I had also had a lot of problems with gas, indigestion, bloating. That just magically went away very, very quickly. I lost a ton of inflammation right away. It was like about 15 pounds or so that just kind of fell off. And I just started feeling so much better. I wasn't feeling hungry all the time. I wasn't having cravings all the time. I wasn't thinking about food all of the time. And so that was just huge for me, because I have always been obsessed with food ever since I was a little kid. And that my mind was just kind of like calm around food. And that was amazing to me. So I meant to just do it for 30 days to just try it out. And here I am, 17, almost 18 months later, still doing it because I love it so much. It's helped me so much.
Oh, that's awesome. So how long did it take before you saw any positive changes? Did it take
I would say
no?
I would say within the first week, I noticed I lost a bunch of weight within the first week. So that's always very motivating,
Yeah.
To all of a sudden have a bunch of weight fall off was very motivating. I still didn't feel great. But that happened, and the gas and the bloating and the indigestion was gone within probably a few days also.
And with regards to, you and most of my followers know about me and my sugar addiction, etc. How did you deal with that? Did you have a lot of cravings after the 30 days, or did you find that they all went away within 30 days?
As long as I didn't go off plan, I didn't have the cravings.
Ah,
So I haven't done carnivore perfectly. I have had some treats here and there and some mess ups. I think, and Dr. Rob Siwas, I don't know if you're familiar with him, the carb
yeah,
addiction doc.
he's
He
awesome.
talks, oh, I love him to death.
Yeah,
He talks a lot about how relapse is just a part of the healing.
yeah,
So I had some relapses in there. Anytime I would relapse, I would, of course, have the cravings again. It just, you put
yeah.
it in your mouth, the cravings come right back. Um, but the periods when I've stayed abstinent, which has been a while now that I've
Mhm.
been doing it for a while, I don't get sugar cravings. I don't walk around. My husband and daughter can have keto treats and stuff in the house, and I'm like, nope, not even gonna entertain that thought.
That's awesome. And I've I find for myself that when I am eating well and as I planned to eat, I don't think about it. But then all of a
Yeah.
sudden there is this thought that tomorrow I'm gonna have some cake and that's fine or whatever. And then I have it and everything is fine. But then that thought will come back much more often. Like, yeah, you were doing
Hmm.
fine and you don't have the cravings, so you're probably safe to do it again. Has that ever occurred to you?
A
Or did you?
100%. I
Yeah.
mean, 100%. And, a big part of my story, I just shared it in a longer video because I'd been kind of quiet about it, is that I have lifelong food addiction
Mm,
and I've lost 100 pounds 3 times. The last time I lost 100 pounds was 12 years ago after I had my daughter. I had her and I was like, I'm not going to have my daughter watch me gain and lose all this weight. I'm just
mm,
not going to do it. So I was like, hard line, not going to do it. So my addiction, because I've come to learn now, addiction is it's a disease that kind of centers in your mind. It switched to alcohol, and it wasn't until I started having a problem with alcohol that I really had to um, understand, learn addiction, and start to treat addiction. um, so I had to get help and support to stop drinking. And part of my story is I went 4 years without a drink and decided I didn't need the support anymore. I didn't need my recovery family. I just was going to separate, go on. It was taking up, too much of my time, quote unquote. And I had a string of bad days. I started feeling depressed, and it was a thought it would be a good idea for me to have a glass of wine. And so one evening I had a bottle of wine because I just would never, I mean, who has a glass? And that glass bottle of wine lasted a whole year of me drinking, destroying my life, out of control again.
wow.
Now I've got 3.5 years away from alcohol again, but I rely heavily on my recovery tools, my recovery family, meditation. I do a lot of things to keep myself in recovery, but it's been since I started carnivore that I've realized that I am the exact same way with sugar, with food, that I am with alcohol. I mean, it's just the addiction switched to alcohol because I was just determined not to gain 100 pounds again because I had already done that so many times. Um, then I had to face addiction. I had to face the
Yeah.
stuff below the surface of like what's making me stuff my face, what's making me drink, what's making me, want to take myself out of where I am, want to escape via food, via drink. So it's such a big thing. I think people just don't really understand. It goes so deep.
Yeah. No, I've noticed from some of the comments on some of my earlier videos and people saying, you know, you're making this so complicated. Just don't eat it. I'm like, if it was that easy, why do we have this problem? There's so many people who can't just do that. Some people are not,
Right.
they just don't get addicted to sugar or chips or whatever it could be, but they might be addicted to something else. So it's
Hmm.
just like an individual thing, I think, whatever you are
It
going to
really
be
is.
addicted to. I'm not drawn to alcohol at all, or cigarettes, or anything for that matter. It's just sugar for me. And that is the only
Yeah.
thing. That's me. I don't jump addictions, but many people do, like you.
Yeah.
So you mentioned recovery tools, and you said meditation was one of them, I guess.
Yes.
What
Oh,
else do
yes.
you do when you feel like, okay, I need to kind of center again and go back to taking care of me?
Well, I do recovery meetings right now that we're all kind of quarantined. They have those on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an amazing tool. They have, and I go to recovery meetings for alcohol, but they have recovery meetings for food also. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's a great time right now because you can go into a Zoom meeting. I don't do this, but if someone's new and is like, how, I'm terrified, you just mute yourself and turn off your camera. You can go totally anonymous to these meetings, but I'm doing meetings every single day. Before quarantine, I was doing 3 meetings a week. No, nothing gets in the way. I don't take clients. Nothing gets in the way of my recovery meetings. That's like a set thing on my schedule. And I'm doing that still now. So those are vital. Those are the big thing for me that I do. I've been doing for, the 10 years, except for the 1 year that I was out there drinking. I wasn't going to meetings at that time because I
Of course not.
didn't every night I would say, I'm going to go back tomorrow. And
Oh,
I did that every night for a year. I said, I'm going to go back tomorrow. And then I just was so ashamed of myself that I wouldn't go back until it was like, okay, you're going to lose everything if you don't go back.
mm,
But I
wow.
do the meetings. I do every single morning before, I'll go to the bathroom real quick, but before I do anything, I meditate for 20 minutes every single morning. Um, and then before like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, usually before my daughter gets home from school, now she's home, but I'm still doing a second meditation around 2 o'clock. I make sure I get my sleep, and I rely heavily on my community for support. I've got
Mm,
friends who have drinking problems that are in recovery that I talk to. I have friends that I've met through Instagram that are in recovery for food, that really, really talk about food addiction. And I stay very connected to people because addiction is a disease that thrives in isolation. You know, the more isolated you can get, it's like the addiction blossoms
mm-hmm.
because now nobody's watching me and I can eat as much as I want. I can eat whatever I want, but and you somehow think you're going to get ahead, but you always end up feeling the exact same way,
Yeah.
after you're done eating or after you're done drinking. It's like you just feel horrible. Um, Physically, you feel terrible, and then you've got the emotional hangover, the guilt, the remorse, and the shame, those things as well.
Yeah. Well, good on you. I
No,
think
thank you.
that's amazing. It's just what you're mentioning though. Just as you said, they're tools, and you manage to put them into your routine and actually follow that routine, and then the tools are working their own way, if you like. So that's really good. It's probably really good advice to anyone who's watching this to, you know, get a morning routine in, whether that be
Mhm.
meditation or maybe some breathing or whatever you want to do, journaling, whatever works for you, and just, get that in as a way of kind of finding yourself in the morning and calm down and feel grounded and have a plan for what you're going to do that day. It's probably very good advice, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'm also a little bit curious about, you said you lost 100 pounds 3 times. How
Hmm.
did you lose it the first few times, or the first couple of times, I guess? And how come you put it back on again? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah. So the first time I was very young, I was always very overweight as a child. Um, I had a pretty traumatic situation happen with my parents. I found out my dad basically had a terminal illness, and so that was very traumatic for me. And so when I found out he was sick, I gained a bunch of weight, even more weight. I was about 220 pounds when I was
Oh,
14. And
wow.
the way that I lost the weight the first time was I got a job and I was working in a bakery, believe it or not.
Oh.
And I went on basically like a starvation diet, and I would just eat. The bread was fat free. I grew up in the 90s when everything was fat free era. So I would just eat like, some sourdough bread and maybe some soup, but I wouldn't eat anything until I would get to work, and I basically starved myself to lose all of that weight. Um, and I lost most of it when I was 16. When I was 18, I went away to college, and then my dad passed away. And I think you can kind of mentally prepare for it, but you're never really prepared for it when it happens.
Mm.
And like I said, it was he had AIDS, and it was 1997. It was the kind of the end of the crisis when people were still getting really sick and dying.
Mm.
And it was just hard. The whole thing was just hard for me to deal with. And so I found my old friend, which was food. And basically, I dropped out of college, and because I was so sad and depressed and didn't know what to do, that I just used food to cope, and ended up gaining all of the weight back. I mean, I think I got up to 235 at that point. Um, and finally, I kind of, after a couple years, I decided I would pick myself up, go back to school, get my life together, get a job, and start running marathons, because isn't that what everyone does?
Of course.
Just become a marathon runner. But I did, and I got in really good shape, and lost the weight. And then I met my now husband. I was about 25, and had, kind of fell into the party life with him. We had a great time, but I had would go out and eat wings with him, and drink beer with the guys, and eat all the late night nachos and foods. And then kind of the person I am, that behavior would go from like, Friday night, Saturday night, to like all week. Um, so I put a lot of weight back on, and then I got pregnant.
Wait.
And so this was time number 3 of hitting 235 pounds. So my pregnancy was when I got really, really big again. And then, like I said, I've had a daughter, and I realized I don't want to do this. I don't want to gain this weight again. I don't want to have this addictive, crazy food behavior in front of my daughter. So I went to Weight Watchers that time, and just did Weight Watchers and did the point system. And and worked out, went to the gym every day at 5 a.m. And I've kept that weight off since, for the last 10 years. Now I have put some of it back on. I'm not as thin as I was um, way back. And especially my vegan days, I was vegan for a couple years in this last 12-year time stretch. I don't think I'll ever get that skinny again. I probably don't want to get that skinny again, because it didn't really look good.
No.
But for the most part, I've really had to, work on my relationship with food, and to not go there, because everyone in my family is big like that. I mean, everyone is over 200 pounds. My sisters, my mom, everybody. So, yeah.
Well, you've done a good job, and I think you found the right diet for you now. So that's encouraging.
Yeah. It's the first diet I've ever been on where I'm not starving all the time,
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's great.
that's really good. And
Yeah.
how is your daughter about what you're eating now? How old is she, by the way?
She'll be 13 in December, so she's 12.
Yeah,
Now, she has a severe autism. She
yeah,
actually doesn't speak. And I have always kind of had her on special diets. She's basically been paleo ever since she was first diagnosed, because I was like doing the Google mommy thing, and saw all the research about the gluten and the dairy, and she has egg allergies, and so and milk allergies. So she's always been paleo, but I just took her about 5 weeks ago now. I just took her keto,
yeah.
because she was having horrible behaviors, just autism. They get very trapped in routine, and her routine was totally taken from her. And she was screaming, crying 5, 6 hours a day, having these crazy behaviors. And she would have these behavior flares, but it was like constant. And so I said, you know what? We're home. She's not going to go anywhere and be exposed to any other food. So we're just going to go keto. So she's 5 weeks keto, and it has been life changing for our family, like absolutely life changing. She is super calm. She cuddles with me, which was unheard of before. If she gets upset about something, she can come out of it. It doesn't turn into a 5, 6 hour screaming match. It's like she can respond emotionally to things now, which is amazing. And she's just so much more calm. So I wish I had done it years ago, but it's it's one of those things, a big change,
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's quite amazing. Going from, I mean, from paleo to keto is not a huge step. It is a step, obviously, but paleo is kind of seen as quite good for people that are sensitive to different things. So
Yeah.
for you to
She
see,
was
so
she loved her fruit though. I mean, she would
yeah,
sit and eat 3 bananas in a row. I mean, I've never
fair
seen
enough.
anyone do that before, but she would 3 bananas, 2 apples. I'm like, it was like so much fruit.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe that plays in. I don't know. So how are you planning on just kind of keeping going on that subject? How are you planning on keeping her diet after the lockdown? And if she has to go to school, I guess she will have to eat out of home, etc.
Yeah, well, I've always sent a lunch to school and I've always sent snacks to school. And
Right.
they are, she's at a special school where it's mostly just kids that are on the spectrum or with behavior challenges, and they're amazing. And so I've already been talking with them because they've been helping us a bit during this time. We're able to get some services where I still have someone coming to the house to work with her, which is
Right.
absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But I've already been in contact with all of them. Like when she comes back, no snacks other than what I send, no lunch, like we have to be strict about the food. And it's amazing the behavior therapist that's been here. We kind of have this deal. She can only come here and no other families. So we're not spreading around and we do temperature every morning. But she's like, she wants to go keto now because she's like, oh my gosh, because she's known my daughter for about a year and she's like just seen the change in the last 5 weeks. And she's like, I think I want to try this keto diet thing
Good.
because I'm like, yes, do it. Just because Alexis is like so calm and so regulated,
Oh, that's
that
awesome.
she's like, I want to try it too. Yeah.
That's so cool. But that's how you do it, by example. And when you have a child, it just changes like that. It's that is the food. It's nothing else it could be.
Oh yeah,
That's
absolutely.
super powerful. Um, can I just jump back and ask about, because since you are a yogi, and I assume that you have a lot of yogi friends, and a lot of your network is extending into those kind of interests, and a lot of, at least my yogi friends back in Sweden, they are all, most of them are some sort of vegetarian or vegan
Hmm.
or a mix in between. We have some pescatarians, that sort of thing. And it almost feels like it comes with yoga, that you
Hmm.
can't be a proper yogi unless you are gonna do more plant-based food.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how did you go about that, and how did that work out? Did people, were they accepting it, or were you judged? I'm quite curious.
Yeah, oh, definitely. It's funny. I did vegan for a couple of years because I went to yoga teacher training and became a yoga teacher and thought that that's what I was supposed to do. That's what I had to do. It was like some kind of requirement, although it's actually, if you do the research, it's not actually in any of the ancient text that says that I mean, there are so many different things written, and um there's definitely nothing that says vegan. 100% not. In fact, it says that milk and ghee are yogic foods. uh, but I digress. I decided to do it, and my health got really bad after a couple years. I was extremely thin, as I mentioned. My hair started falling out. I got cellulite for the first time in my life because I started losing so much muscle. I
Yeah.
was literally just a waif. I post a picture every now and then on my Instagram because I just want to show people like what that looked like. And it was actually one of my yoga teachers that came to me and said, I'm really going to encourage you to eat some meat, to eat some animal food,
Wow.
because you're very sick, like you don't look good. And if this continues, then you're not going to be able to be of service to number one, your students, number two, your family and people. And the whole thing of, what people throw around is this word ahimsa, which is non-harming or non-violence. It's one of the yoga precepts, and they misinterpret ahimsa. They all of a sudden slam this label of you have to be vegan or vegetarian. That's ahimsa.
Mm.
Ahimsa is non-harming, non-violence. And what my teacher said to me, he said that also is towards yourself. And he said there are people who really need to have meat in order to be healthy. And we know that now. There are specific genetic mutations, especially the MTHFR mutation, which I have. Those
Right.
people are going to have a much more difficult time absorbing any kind of B vitamins through a supplement, which I never could. I took all the supplements that, I mean, I had this purse of supplements that I would take, and none of them were helping. So we know now nutritionally that there are some people that are just going to tank on a vegan diet quicker than others, and I was one of those. And so I had to really reconcile that with myself, because I was doing it because I thought it was the right thing to do.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it's been a journey, and now that I'm on carnivore, it's like, wow, it's even more of a reconciliation. But I try my best to eat from regenerative agriculture. I'm right here in Atlanta, which is a little bit north of White Oak Pastures, which is an amazing, amazing farm where they have beautifully, it's just a beautiful place, and they really treat the animals well. It's carbon negative. I mean, it's just amazing. So for me, I feel my best when I'm eating that type of meat from a farm, from a farmer that I know, that I trust. I know I'm not doing environmental damage. And I mean, we could talk all day about the whole like vegetables and monocropping and all of that causing more damage. But, just for me, what I'm doing, if I want to put my yogic spin on it, I feel best when I'm eating from that space.
Yeah.
Um, and I have not really gone out there on my Facebook page, in my yoga community here, locally, and talked about being on carnivore diet. Anyone who knows I'm on the carnivore diet has found me online by accident.
Oh.
um, so I haven't really told a lot of my, colleagues, because a lot of them still are vegan, vegetarian, but some of them are starting to find out, and it's opened up a dialogue, which is pretty cool, because I can educate them on regenerative agriculture and farms like White Oak Pastures. And um, it's been actually pretty cool to have the conversation with people who know me and have known me for a decade,
Mm.
and don't see me as this, person who's out there trying to destroy the environment by eating nothing but meat. They don't have that bias because they like me already.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's interesting. So you've been doing
yeah.
this for a year and 3, 4 months,
Hmm.
and many don't know. Wow.
Yeah, a lot of people still don't know. They're still finding out
Yeah.
because my channel is growing, and my
Yeah.
Instagram and all that. And if they find out, they're like, Sarah, what? And I'm like, oh yeah,
By the way,
by
I'm
the
eating a
way,
lot of meat.
a lot.
Yeah. How much
Yeah,
do you
now
eat?
vegans, um,
Oh,
you
sorry.
know, okay. I've actually switched to like a high fat carnivore diet now. So I'm eating less than a pound of meat per day. I would say probably between 8 to 10 ounces of actual meat per day, but I'm eating like a lot of fat, like
Mm.
beef suet, fat trimmings. I do some egg yolks, but yeah, probably total weight for what I eat is a little bit over a pound of food per day.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
what made you do this switch? And I'm assuming now that you did it deliberately.
Yeah, and I've talked about it in some of my videos. I started running into some issues doing the super high protein, and not enough fat on carnivore. I started having irregular cycles, and this is also, I think, from too much fasting.
Right.
But my cycles were becoming irregular. I started having trouble sleeping. I started gaining weight, and it was like belly fat. And
Wow.
I really actually tanked when I went meat only,
Yeah.
and took eggs out. And I was eating a lot. I was eating 2 pounds plus, sometimes 3 pounds a day.
Mm.
And I just
God.
started feeling really bad, I just did not feel good. Um, So I actually interviewed Stephanie Keto Person on
Mm.
my channel,
Yeah.
and she and I were talking, and she started saying some stuff, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this woman knows all my health problems right now." Like, oh crap, she's calling me out. And so I ended up scheduling a consult with her after I interviewed her, and her and I've become really close friends. Like, we've been talking like pretty much every day for the last like almost 2.5 months now. And so she's been coaching me on how to do high fat carnivore, how to heal. Because I started having histamine issues, and I really didn't have them before. I started having some
Mm.
problems, and I was like, what in the world is going on? I started having problems with my electrolytes. And so Stephanie has helped me tremendously with getting my macros, my meal timing, all that stuff on point.
Cool. What,
Yeah.
how come you started getting the histamine problems all of a sudden? What do you
Well,
think?
Stephanie, she thinks that it was that I wasn't rotating my meats. I was just doing ribeye steak. I was doing the same cut from the same animal every
Yeah.
single day, and I wasn't rotating. I wasn't doing like lamb or any kind of fish, or even switching up to do like a New York strip. I was just doing ribeye. Um, and I think that that just started those histamine issues. It was like it became a food intolerance for me.
Okay. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm also wondering, do you think that there's a difference between men and women when it comes to doing well on a high protein versus a high fat diet?
100% yes.
Mm.
100% yes. I mean, I can only go from my experience, but when I switched back over to I wasn't doing this high fat before, but when I switched to high fat, um, my cycle came back right away. And I wasn't ovulating. I hadn't been ovulating in a while. But I have ovulated the last 2 months in a row, and my cycle has been on the 28-day schedule again.
Mm.
And it hadn't been that way really the whole time I was carnivore. It had
Oh,
kind of flipped. Yeah, it had been a little bit off the whole time I'd been carnivore. And I was like, this is not
wow.
right.
Okay.
Um, so for me, going to high fat, it regulated my hormones again,
Mm.
fixed my sleep, got the cycle back on track. Um, so I think I think for men, what men might see if they're doing super high protein and not enough fat after a while is a major drop in testosterone.
Right.
That's what I've seen. So
Okay. Because there are quite a few people, I think, that are now starting to shout out a bit that, we shouldn't force the fat, and we shouldn't be scared of the protein, and just, keep
mhm.
going with the protein. And because I'm naturally the way that you are eating now. I can eat maybe 300-400 grams, and that's up to a pound, and then I
Mhm.
can't eat more meat. It's just
Yeah,
it's not happened for me. It's just like I can't do it. I physically
yeah,
can't do it. It's like no. But if I'm having some
yeah.
beef suet and I'm frying it a little bit, and it's all just yummy and melting in
Oh
your
yeah.
mouth, and I don't have a problem eating that.
Yeah, beef suet is my favorite food,
Yeah,
I think. It's
it's
so
good.
good.
It's really
I've
good.
got my daughter eating it too, which is shocking because she's so picky, but I just let her try it one day,
So,
and I've run out of it. I've got a bunch on the way shipped to me now, but she ate all my beef suet. She loves it so much.
well, it might not be a bad thing.
No,
But,
it's not.
but I'm just wondering that those people that are actually talking about the protein, maybe it's because I haven't actually heard a single woman saying that. Maybe it's
Yeah.
more of a male thing that it can work for some men, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
and I think it's how much physical activity you're doing as well.
Yeah.
I see guys that like Sean Baker who are doing, he does a tremendous amount of physical activity. And I think you can kind of get away with doing that higher protein ratio because you're going more towards a sugar burning metabolism because you're experiencing a lot of gluconeogenesis.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of people say gluconeogenesis is not a bad thing and it's okay. And for me, I wore a continuous glucose monitor. I have a few times now. Um, and when I had that monitor on, when I was doing super high protein, my blood glucose would spike up in the night. It would go up into the hundreds in my sleep. Um,
Cool. As in
And
not cool, but cool that you know.
yeah, yeah. And like Stephanie was the one who was like, "Oh my gosh, that's not good. That's really, really bad."
Mm,
And I have always had nice kind of like sculpted arms, but I had noticed over the last, few months that I was losing muscle in my arms. And I was
wow.
like, am I just getting old? Like, what's going on? And it was Steph that told me, if you're not in a ketone metabolism, if you're bouncing between glucose metabolism and ketone metabolism, it's going to start eating away at your muscle.
Mm,
And so I think, you know, I, it's one of those things. This carnivore diet's so new, but I can say I feel my best and look my best also doing a super high fat, really truly being in ketosis.
yeah. So are you
Yeah.
actually eating 200 grams of fat every day? Like she usually
Oh
tells
yeah.
everyone? Yeah.
More than that. I mean, I'm
Awesome.
probably closer to like 300,
Wow.
honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if I could do that. I'm like, that is a lot of fat to eat, and I eat quite a lot of fat, I think, but not when I'm thinking 200 grams of really fat. Because when I'm cooking the beef suit, a lot of it is melting out, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
So I'm trying to cook it less and less, but there is a limit to how little I can cook it and actually enjoy it still.
Yeah. Well, I eat a lot of the suet raw, which I know some people freak out about,
Mm.
but I love raw beef suet, just thaw it at room temperature. I'll eat the fat trimmings. I eat those raw also. I put them in the
Wow.
freezer and then take them out and eat. Yeah, I know it's not for everybody, but
No.
to me it tastes really good.
Well, that's lucky. I tried it raw, but I was like, no, I can't do this. But
No.
Emily from Center of Brilliance, she said, try it frozen with salt on. So I still have to
Yes.
try that and see how that works.
Yes.
Okay, so can I jump back to the addiction a little bit? Just because I
Sure.
realized I forgot to ask you something about it. So have before you started the carnivore diet, have you ever tried to, or were you even, sorry, were you even aware that you were addicted to food? And did you ever try to break that addiction before with some sort of method?
Oh yeah. I mean, I feel like I tried everything. I've always felt controlled by food ever since I was like a little child, and I've been on every single diet imaginable. My first time in Weight Watchers was when I was like 11, I want to say. My
Oh,
parents made me go. Um, and then in high school, I remember doing like the cabbage soup diet. Um, I've tried cleanses. I did the master cleanse, the one where you do the lemonade and the maple syrup. It's just horrible for 10 days. I've done that one probably 3 or 4 times, just trying to break my food addiction. I
right.
mean, I've done so many diets, just trying to make it stop, make it go away. Um, and honestly, carnivore diet's been the only thing that I've ever done that's helped, that my brain just like calmed down.
Why do you think that is?
I think I'm getting the nutrients that my brain is getting the
Mm,
nutrients, the amino acids, it's getting the support that it needs, and it's also not going into starvation mode. Losing weight on Weight Watchers, I was hungry a lot. I was not satisfied. I was counting the points and the portioning and having the little brownie or having the little tiny cup of noodles and the spaghetti. And, like you're just constantly weighing and measuring and obsessing over your food. And you're always hungry. You're always thinking about your next meal. And with the carnivore diet, I'm like, fine. Like I eat a meal and I don't think about what I'm gonna have the next meal. I'm just like, "Oh, I'm gonna have my next meal. I'm gonna go get a steak," and I just don't sit around obsessing about it. Now I'll get hungry like a normal person, but I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'll go have a steak or I'll go grab a handful of fat and I'm fine," and it holds me. Um, so it's just my brain just feels so much calmer, and it's not constantly going through the spikes of dopamine that I was having with the sugar.
yeah.
My brain was just constantly spiking dopamine, and then my blood sugar was also probably, I mean, I never wore a continuous glucose monitor with the way that I used to eat because it probably would have, oh God, I don't even want to know what that thing would have looked like. Um,
I do.
I mean, oh my Lord, I can't even imagine. But here's the other thing, and I've noticed this now that I'm doing high fat carnivore, is that my blood sugar is like super regulated. And I think a lot of people that are having sugar cravings, or they're crashing, they're having a poor mood, is blood sugar. You know, I
Mm.
think it's your blood sugar is really all over the place. And so when your blood sugar is either sinking down way too low or going up way too high, or just like doing this all day, it's going to influence your mood. You're going to be more snappy, more irritable. Um, but I don't think people recognize that. I think people think, oh, this is just my, oh, sorry, this is just my personality. You know,
Yeah.
I'm just this type of person. And you're really, you may not be, you know?
Yeah, that's very interesting because I always say that there are pretty much two parts to the addiction, and one of them is the hormonal part with the insulin and the blood sugar, and the other part is the emotional one where you
Hmm.
seek some sort of comfort and you're so obsessed with, I know that I'm doing it when I'm bored or when I need to procrastinate or when I'm
Hmm.
restless. That's when I'm looking for food. I'm not the
Yes.
type that goes to food when I'm sad or something like that. I'm just sad and I accept that. But I can't be bored or restless or have nothing to do. Then I need to find something to do, and food is the one thing that I tend to be doing. So I don't know how. Do you have any tips for how to deal with that? Sorry, with that kind of with the emotional part being a carnivore, or do you think that we still have a part of a, a bit of dysregulated blood sugar when we are going into carnivore, even though we think that we're not, and that might be why some people are still having a lot of cravings on carnivore.
Yeah, I think that, knowing your numbers, knowing your blood sugar,
Hmm.
doing carnivore is very important. Because yeah, for me, when I was having those spikes, I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't feeling good, and that would influence me feeling kind of hungry during the day or needing to eat more meat. And so yeah, I was still having some of that. Now, I had just kind of mentally gotten to a place where the sugar, that was just off the table, for me. So I would just end up probably overeating meat. Um, but you get to a point and you're just like, I just, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I don't want to be in this loop with the sugar. So, but you still have things like holidays. Now, this Christmas and this Thanksgiving was the first time that I didn't have even one morsel of food that was off carnivore. Like I was 100% carnivore for both holidays and New Year's.
That's so
Um, it was amazing. I
yeah.
mean, it was just like I was able to spend time with my family, and my husband was even like, "You didn't get that glazed over look in your eyes that you always get." Because I do. Like I'm at dinner and I have like 20 desserts to choose from, and I have to try them all, and then I get obsessed and you think of like a switch turns off. It's
Yeah.
that addiction switch. And he was like, you were just so cool, like you didn't get the glazed over look and you were hanging out. But I did have to kind of deal with that emotional side of it, of like, kind of physically I wasn't craving it, but
Yeah.
emotionally I was like, well, it's a holiday and oh, I'm around family and like
Mm.
you deal with that aspect. I think you're always going to deal with that a little bit. I think I've talked to people who have been like food sober for 5 years plus, and they've assured me it gets easier and easier as the holidays and things go through.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that you're like, okay, here it is. And then I had to leave early to a couple things, like a couple parties. It just would start getting to me, and I'd feel myself getting irritable, and I'm like, okay, I have to leave, because I've just watched everyone eat cake for like 3 hours and I'm done. Like I need to go home.
Yeah. That's I'm always amazed when people say that, I didn't want it. And I have
Yeah.
been there, and then I've been back, and then I've been there again, and I have been back.
Hmm.
I know exactly what it feels like, and it's amazing.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden you lose it. So I'm
Yeah.
really happy for you that you have managed to get rid of that, and sugar is not part of your diet at all anymore. And if anything, you're going to overeat on healthy food. I think you can live
Yes.
with that. At least I
Yeah.
could. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just I'm jumping back and forth here all the time. I'm feel really unstructured, but I'm a little bit curious there. When people are, I'm assuming now that you get a lot of people, yogis, etc., maybe that you didn't know before, going wild on Instagram, etc., that message you and might be saying like, how can you defend this morally, and why do I don't care about my health, I'm more interested in animal welfare. Would you just want to touch a little bit about that? And I know you said you could talk about that for like hours,
Oh
but
gosh, yeah.
the short version, what would you tell someone that you have 5 minutes to tell them, it's not actually what you think it is?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing that I didn't really realize until I had to kind of get into um, this diet and this way of eating is that there are there's death with every single way of eating.
Mm,
There's a lot of death. And my mom grew up on a farm. She actually verified this for me that when there's farming going on, there are going to be field mice, rabbits, deer, and let's not talk about the millions, billions of insects and um, birds that are killed as a result of farming vegetables. And
yeah.
so I don't think that a lot of vegan, vegetarian people, although they may be well-meaning, I don't think they realize that there's death with every way of eating. Um, and if someone wants to talk with me about which way of eating kills more people, kill kills more animals.
Yeah.
If you're buying, like I do, a cow from a regenerative farm, the rate of death for just eating that one cow is substantially lower than if I'm going out to grocery store and buying a ton of vegetables and buying my almond milk. I mean, almond farming kills so many bees, and it's horrendous.
Yeah.
People don't realize that they're eating their nut milks and they're like thinking they're doing a good thing to not, drink regular milk. They're having their nut milk. Um, so I think there's just a lot. And the thing that I do is I just block and delete most people. I just don't choose to spend my time and energy debating people on these things. I'm like, they can go to Sean Baker's page or Paul Saladino or one of these other doctors out there that actually is talking about this. I
Mm-hmm.
don't need to waste my precious time and energy fighting strangers on the internet. Like,
Nah.
I just I know I can sleep really well at night knowing that the way that I'm eating and what I'm doing is the best thing for me and my family. And if people don't like it, then that's fine. And if they want to troll me over it, which happens, I block, delete, and move on with my life,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's your right to do. Thank you for that. So before we wrap this up, do you have anything else, any tips for people who maybe they keto, they want to try carnivore, who should do it, who shouldn't be doing it? Do you need to be a special kind of person to do it, or, what's your experience? What have you seen?
Yeah. I mean, I think anyone can do it. I think that you need to, go into it slowly. Now, I just jumped right in
Mm,
because I'm just kind of an extreme person and that's just what I do. But I do recommend if people want to do it that they transition themselves in gently and go slowly. Don't just rip the band-aid off, but maybe go keto first, with like vegetables that have low anti-nutrients, so stay away from the oxalates and things like that. But maybe try keto and then gradually take away things. Mind your electrolytes 100%. That's one thing that caught up to me eventually is a lot of people said, oh, electrolytes don't matter. I think electrolyte balance and management is very, very important. Going from standard American diet to keto, and definitely from keto to carnivore, any of those. And be easy on yourself. Know that relapse is part of the process. It means that you're growing, and it's going to happen. And don't make it a moral thing like you're a bad person. Like, what you eat, contrary to what some people believe, doesn't make you a good or a quote unquote bad person. Don't make it a moral thing, and just pick yourself up, start again. Don't delay it. Don't wait for something to happen. Don't wait for, I'm gonna wait till quarantine's over. Like, why? Why
Yeah,
would you do that? Right now is a perfect time.
yeah.
It's a great time. You can get everything out of your house.
Mm,
You're not going to be going out and going to restaurants and being in social situations. It's perfect time, you
yeah.
know? Yeah.
That's some awesome advice that I hope that you all heard and paid attention to, because I think that's, yeah, be kind to yourself and
Yes.
do it right away. So thank you so much for coming on my YouTube channel. I really do appreciate it. I think this was a good interview and a lot
Thank
of goodies
you.
in there that people can take with them.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was awesome to chat with you.
Yay! Thank you so much.